So, the Briefcase project. Goal with this project initially was basically I work remotely, and when I'm on call, I have to be able to respond within like 5 or 10 minutes to an issue. I don't like laptops because I just get used to my big, monitors and displays and stuff like that, and I just can't work on one screen. But I don't have to sit at home the entire time I'm on call. So I wanted to make an all-in-one desktop that was pretty mobile, had more than one screen, and I also wanted to be able to game on it, right? I did not want to sit and design this thing from the ground up. I kind of didn't know what I was doing at all, so I was like, I'm just going to throw myself into it, and we're going to see how it goes. So on Facebook Marketplace, I started fishing around, found a couple of these gaming monitors, and I was like, 24 inches, it's about average. I feel like that could fit what I want. Got them for a little bit under 300 actually for both of them, so not bad. And I started kind of thinking what I can do. Once I actually got them, I ripped those things apart down to the bare bones. So you can see we've got the different LCDs here, and then they've got those control boards on the back. This is something that definitely could have been planned out better. But like I said, I didn't want to plan it. I just wanted to kind of go with it. So I started thinking about how I could go about removing these main boards in the middle here because these are way too thick. If I want monitors that are going to be able to fold outwards, I'm not going to be able to have these control boards on the back of the monitors. They're going to have to be moved to a central location. So started messing around with that a little bit. One of the big concerns with that is there's 3 cables that go to these control boards. We've got this one right here that you see with 11 different little wires in there. It's the same on this one right here. And then we've got this ribbon right here. And then there's another cable in the back that has like 8 wires or something like that. So I started thinking, with these wires, I can cut these and solder extensions on. But with this ribbon, I can't cut a ribbon and solder an extension on that. That'd just be a huge pain. So started looking at it a little bit more seriously. Was looking for any like model numbers or because I just don't know what to call this other than a ribbon. So I wanted to know what to be able to Google so I could find maybe a longer one. And I found this E221612 number here. Looked that up on eBay. This is the original length of the cable. So these are the ones that came with the monitors. And then here's the one I found on eBay. So quite a bit longer, right? And this was the thing that was going to prevent me from being able to move those boards on the back of the monitors to a central location. So I was able to find this cable. There was still kind of a small problem. You can see this is the cable that came with the monitor. It's just flat right here on both sides. And then the cable that I have has these weird little like nubs. And because of those nubs, I'm not able to fit them in the right spot. So what I ended up doing is I just kind of held them on top of each other and just took a scissors and just cut it off. Cut it down to size that way. And that actually worked. I actually, on one of these pins, if I go back a bit, on one of the ones that I cut like half of this pin off and there's just like a little bit sticking out, but somehow it still makes a good enough connection to work. So I was pretty happy about that. Set up a little test bench. You can see I've got the longer ribbon cable here hooked up. Still haven't done the extensions for these other 2 cables I was talking about, but I just wanted to make sure that those ribbons were going to work because if they didn't, I was kind of stuck and I didn't know where to go from there. So luckily enough for me, it did work, so I kept going. I started looking at the other wire connections that there were. This one right here is the one I looked at first. And you can see, it's got 11 different wires that come in, but some of them go into the same spots. Like these blue ones, the green ones, and the orange ones, they all go into the same little connector. So since I'm really lazy, I didn't run 2 separate wires for those. I actually just stripped off both of the same colors, soldered them together, and then soldered a Ethernet cable wire onto that to hook up to the other side. So I don't know that I've got a better picture of that, but yeah, basically the wires I used for the extensions were just the little wires that come inside of like Ethernet cables or whatever. So those work pretty well, and they're a little bit thicker gauge than these ones, so I'm not too concerned about me, kind of putting two into one and doing it like that. So it's been working great so far. Moving forward, now that I knew that I was able to have these monitor controllers be not just on the back of each individual monitor, I started planning out how I was going to build the main screen in the middle that's going to have all the monitor controllers on it. So I was just kind of loosely placing things where I thought they might fit. I used a Sharpie and just kind of tried to section off everything. And then I ordered a bunch of, it's called aluminum composite. Um, I actually meant to order just sheets of aluminum. Whenever I looked up aluminum to purchase it, the cheapest thing that came up was this aluminum composite stuff, and I didn't catch it in time. So I ordered a huge sheet of this stuff, and then when it got here, I realized I messed up, but I'm not just going to throw it away because I already spent like 70 bucks or something like that on it. So I ended up actually using it. Here I've just got the panel, and I'm kind of tracing out um, how big I want it to be and making sure that I can actually fit all three of the monitors and all the other different areas that I want to cut out with the piece that I had. So size that up and cut it out. So here I've got the panel on the bottom with a sheet of that cut aluminum composite on top, and then all three of these monitor controllers are mounted on top of that. So you can see they've got the different circuits for like the power, and honestly, I don't know what half this stuff is. I just plugged it in how it was plugged in when I found it, and that was that. One thing I did have to change after this though is you see the heat spreaders on these monitor controllers. The slats are going, well, vertically from how this picture is. But eventually this side on the right here is going to be the top, and heat goes up. So I actually ended up rotating the heat spreaders here to have the slats go horizontally, so that the heat can kind of naturally rise off the top there. But that wasn't too bad. Then I started planning out. So we've got the monitor controller section kind of on the bottom here, and I started thinking, obviously I need to get a computer in this thing because as of right now, it's just monitor controllers. There's no actual computer. So just kind of cut another piece out, same size of that aluminum composite, slapped it on top, and then started thinking about how I can go about getting this all hooked up. Sized out and put like the motherboard and graphics card and power supply on that piece of aluminum composite. And then the only place I had to cut everything out was my bathtub. So that's what I did. Just cutting some holes here for different bolts and to make sure I can route the cables from the power supply so they look kind of decent and keep a lot of the mess out of the stuff that someone's actually going to be able to look at. So here's that same monitor controller section with the bolts on it. You can see there's a bunch of different bolts around here. So we're kind of just getting ready for that computer section to get put on top of here. Then at some point I did also realize the like 1 foot DisplayPort cables that I'd purchased were definitely not long enough. So I had to fit these ones that were just outrageously long in here because I'm just too I'm just not going to invest in buying like 2 foot cables, and I had some lying around already, so just went ahead and did that. Got started on the computer section itself. So you can see here, I started with the graphics card, and I kind of tried to go fancy because I bought a 3D printer just for this project. So I made some nice hooks and mounts for the graphics card. Got the riser hooked up to the little motherboard here. And then when I got to the power supply, I was like, you know what? I just really don't care anymore. And so I just zip tied it. It's really sturdy, so I mean, it's not like sketchy or anything like that, but got it on there. Motherboard's on there. It's got some 3D printed spacers there too, so it doesn't short itself out. I did use an M.2 SSD, so that was really nice, so I don't have to run like SATA and SATA power to like, I don't know, an external SSD or something like that. Just cuts down on the clutter quite a bit, and it's 2 terabytes NVMe, so definitely enough space and definitely fast enough for me. Otherwise, got 32 gigs of obviously DDR4 memory, and then Ryzen 5 5th generation. Can't even remember. It's a 6 core, but definitely more than I need. The graphics card isn't amazing. It's a hybrid because I wanted to be able to like contain most of the heat from the graphics card itself and make sure it gets pumped outside immediately instead of just like circulating inside this box. So that's a 1080, but it gets the job done, and it supports the displays that I want since it's got 3 DisplayPort outputs. So that was the big thing, and it was cheap because I got it used. So next I started planning the power supplies for the monitors. Each of them have this little box you can see here. It's not tiny, it's not huge, but it's kind of a pain. So I started planning out how I was going to fit those in, and I decided I was going to slap them right here next to the other power supply. And then since I don't want to have to run 4 power cables to this computer, I just want to run 1. I got ready to mount a power strip right here. So we'll see that coming up. Got all that stuff ready, and it doesn't look amazing by any means. Got everything situated where I kind of wanted it. So I did screw the power strip in. I made a little 3D printed encasement box for the monitor power supplies, but turns out since I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing with CAD or anything like that, it was definitely not sturdy enough, so I ended up just taping it a bunch with electrical tape. If it fits, it ships, so it ships. So got that all set up, routed all the cables where I wanted them. At this point, mechanically at least, on the technical side, everything is done. You can see this white cable here is for custom power button that I got. I have some really questionable Wi-Fi antennas run. These are literally just more stripped out Ethernet cables. I was like, yeah, it's a wire, it's an antenna, right? That'll work, but turns out it does not. So here's just kind of a side view. Got the ribbon cable routing around. And then right now, you can see all those soldered connections that I made. Those are just kind of out all willy-nilly, not really organized at all. So I did go and get some wire covers for those. We'll see those in a little bit, but you can see got the 3 monitors down here, monitor controller section, and then we've got the computer section up on the top. Then I had some fun with my family and started making the actual box for it. I had not planned out how we were going to make this at all, so my family stepped in and helped me out quite a bit there. And then we got that set up, created it, made it of just sheet metal, so same stuff you run like air ducts for like a furnace or something like that. Not exactly light, I will say. It's a little bit bulkier than I would like, and the monitors are very heavy. So at this stage, you can see we've got the wire protections for those wires going to the monitors. The ribbon's kind of just free floating. We've got USB headers on the top here, and then there's the power button on the top as well. At this point, it isn't completely finished because there's nothing to keep the monitors from swinging open when you're carrying it around, and there's also nothing to carry it around with. So that is very important. But I was pretty excited, so I did prop it open and take a look at how it was working and everything like that, run some stress tests. It performed all right. It performed really well, actually. The graphics cards, especially since the hybrid was within temperature ranges I would expect, but the CPU got really toasty. Hit like 95 Celsius at one point after running for like 15 minutes, so I was kind of like not a huge fan of that. I actually went back and purchased a Noctua kind of low profile cooler. You can see I've got it mounted on here, and that took it down quite a bit. And then after I did that, I realized that in the BIOS settings, I had accidentally overclocked the CPU by a decent bit, and that's why it was overheating. But I just kind of left that overclock there now, since this cooler can kind of support that. yeah, it's been running great. So looks all right on the inside. I could definitely do a lot more to cable manage, but honestly, I just leave this thing closed all the time, so nobody really looks in here. I did also add a kind of like a duct for the power supply here. It pulls air in from the top and through these holes, and then I don't want it recirculating that heat within the computer. So I've just got a little duct to these holes on the side, so it makes sure it pushes all that hot air out the side instead of just circulating it. Other than that, the only real intake for the computer is any air that the CPU pulls in from the holes in front of it, or the air that the power supply pulls in from the holes in front of it. And then the graphics card radiator is the primary exhaust for the whole thing, and it just shoots the heat out directly through there. So that works pretty well, honestly. Um, Looking at the design overall, I would definitely expect it to get a lot hotter, but I've run this thing for days, playing like VR games and anything like that, and everything stays within good ranges. So graphics card usually stays below 55 Celsius. It's a little toasty for a hybrid, but I mean, it's definitely not in any concerning temperature ranges. So CPU still stays underneath, usually under 85 or under 80 Celsius, but sometimes it'll get up to like 85. But honestly, I really don't care that much. It works for me. So I did end up adding some legs on the bottom. They are anything but beautiful, but they are able to fold in whenever I pick it up, and I can carry it around without anything protruding. And then I also added some Wi-Fi antennas on the side because my sketchy Ethernet Wi-Fi antenna that I had before did not work, not at all. So this box is kind of like a Faraday cage. So I also had to move let's see if I got a picture. On the top here, you can see the dongle for the wireless mouse and keyboard. Had to put that on the top instead of on the inside because any wireless stuff on the inside is just not going to get good signal at all. So got some decent Wi-Fi adapters and put those on the outside. So works great. Really enjoy how it looks. It folds up pretty good. Really nice form factor, and it actually, it's pretty heavy. But once I put that, I don't know if I actually put a picture that you can see, but there is like a duffel bag, a Nike duffel bag handle that you can throw over your shoulder to kind of carry the whole thing. So that's what I've been doing, and with that, I could carry it around for miles, and it's really not a big deal. So it's also nice not having to. It's only got one power cable for the whole thing, so you don't have to worry about running Ethernet or doing anything like that. Definitely wouldn't take this to a coffee shop, and I most certainly would not take this to an airport unless I had a death wish, because I don't think they would probably let you get too far. So, hope you like it. Let me know if you've got any ideas, or, I mean, there's plenty of things that could be changed and made better in a second version.